So right now we're here with Eddie Fala, and he's gonna tell us a little bit about ADUs and everything that has to do with CCS.
So let me start by introducing a little bit of my background. I was in real estate for 15 years. I still am a practicing agent. I got into touch with CCS many years ago, and I saw a lot of the projects they were doing, amazing projects, and I decided I wanted to be a part of what's going on. I wanted to help build this together. It's an amazing company, a lot of really good values, making sure that we always do right by the client. We never run away. We never leave a client unsatisfied. You can see by the reviews on Yelp, you can see by the reviews we get from all clients that it's just a very solid company that does things the right way. Clarity and communication is at the forefront, and those are values that I held myself. So I was very excited to join CCS, bring my wealth of real estate expertise, over 15 years of doing transactions, 20 million, 15 million here and there, and being able to sharpen the skills of my developer side a little more, which I love doing. I love creating spaces, and this is definitely a very good transition for me. So I'm really happy to be a part of CCS. I really love to help investors, whether they be big time investors or just families who are just getting started in construction, holding their hand, teaching them along the way how to create this wealth for themselves, how great of an opportunity ADUs are. And I think one of the most amazing things about CCS that really drew me to them is that we ourselves are also investors. So we don't sell anything that we don't want to do for ourselves, which I think
That's what I agree.
is one of the biggest. You never want to go to a Mercedes dealership and see the guy driving a BMW.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That he's trying to sell you a Mercedes. So we are all also people who love investing and see the potential in ADUs, have achieved a lot of great things through what we provide to other people, and we're able to share that knowledge and expertise with other people. So that's what I love about CCS.
So you just close 18 ADUs for one client. Why don't you tell us about that? Because normally our clients they would go from one single family home to multifamily home with one or two ADUs to create some cash flow. But 18 ADUs is a whole different story. Tell us about that.
So I meet a lot of investors from all walks of life, and I've had many years of experience dealing with people who have tons of real estate knowledge, experience, and have created their wealth through real estate. So um, it's not so intimidating for me, I guess, having had that much experience over the years. This particular client was somebody who had reached out to several different companies. Nobody seemed to have the capacity or the knowledge to fully understand what he was trying to do, and the crew itself to actually bring this design and build it together. I was very confident, and I knew that we have the capacity, we have the ability to create even more than 18 ADUs. And I think he saw from the very beginning how confident we are in being able to achieve this, our track record. And not only that, the ability to speak to investors as an investor. So I understand on a baseline level, and like most of us do here at CCS, I want to say all of us do here at CCS, what an investor wants to know. It's not as simple as, oh, yeah, it'll look great to have a kitchen here. It'll look great to have a bathroom there. It's also, hey, what is my return on investment? How long is it going to take me to pay off these units? What is my average rent going to be? What is my net cap rate on here? What is my ROI? What is my GRM? These are all terms that an investor wants to hear.
Correct.
And if the numbers pencil out, no investor is going to turn away from a good deal. And when you're confident in what you're selling and you know what you're bringing to the table is a product that's going to further elevate their goals, it's not really even a sell. It's at that point, you're really just facilitating their vision. And that's the way that I see it. I don't see it as sales, to be honest with you. Selling is convincing somebody.
Correct.
Facilitating, to me, is helping somebody achieve their goals, their dreams, their visions.
Right. So why don't you explain us a little bit between the relationship within the client and the company? Because so many clients they expect the ADU to be built as fast as possible, but at the end of the day, sometimes we have to wait for inspectors, right? So we finish the foundation, and then we have to call for the inspector. If the inspector is available for the next day, he will just come and okay, we can pass inspection. But if the inspector is gonna come next week. Then we're waiting 3, 4, maybe 5 days for the inspector to come, and then after we pass, then we can go on with the framing, and then rough electrical, rough mechanical, rough plumbing. Every step of the way is the same way.
So the way that I see it is, I would never fault anybody who's getting into construction for the first time for not knowing what setbacks can happen during the construction process. You can't fault anybody, and the truth is there's such a bad rap for contractors, for builders throughout the world. They say one of the top 3 most hated people in the world are contractors. They're number 2 or 3, I think it was. I think a lot of contractors could be amazing builders. They could be amazing with their hands or with their management abilities, but they're not great communicators. And I think one of the worst parts of this industry are people who overpromise and underdeliver. People who say, "Don't worry, it'll take 3 months." And 2 years later, you're still standing staring at your framing going, "What the heck is going on?" Contractors that say, "Don't worry, I can do this for $80,000. And after the 80,000, you're like, "Hold on, you have all my money and we're not even close to being finished." And they say, "Oh, well, I'm going to need a little more. I'm going to need a little more. Now I need a little more for this." So clarity and communication and setting real expectations is what we thrive at here at CCS. And that's one of the things that I align very closely with, and just in personal values and beliefs. I would rather give you the real news up front than to promise you something that I know I can't deliver.
Right.
I cannot fault people for not knowing the setbacks that can happen during construction, but my job is to make sure that I educate you along the way and to make sure that those setbacks do not alter our timeline.
Yeah.
So if I give you a timeline of 3 to 5 months for your permitting, that's a timeline I'm very confident in through a lot of experience. And if there's setbacks with the city along the way, if the 5 months comes up and a client calls me and says, "It's been 5 months, what's going on?" I have not done my job properly. Because my job here is to educate along the way, communicate well, and let you know of potential setbacks prior to them happening. If a client comes to me and they say, "Hey, it's been 6 months, we're doing construction. Why is it taking longer than you said?" Again, I haven't done my job properly. Because what I love to do with clients throughout the entire way, from day one when we're breaking ground, is to educate them throughout the entire process.
Right.
And if somebody feels more empowered, a part of the process, and educated, they understand when setbacks occur because they're coming from a baseline of knowledge rather than being completely out of the loop and just sitting there going, "Well, what's going on this week? I have no idea what's going on."
Right. So we understand this terminology, but many people that is watching us or people that is interested into building an ADU, they don't really know how the process works. So first, we have the full set of plans, which is gonna take 3 to 5 months, as you said. So you need to bring the designer that is going to do the blueprints, the structural engineer, Title 24, which is energy calculations, then submit to the city, and then submit to the building and safety department. Now, in construction, they have to understand that every step of the way, we need to bring the inspector. So after we do the footings, we need to stop and call for inspection. After we do the framing, after we do the rough plumbing, electrical, and mechanical, after insulation, after drywall, and then final inspection. And we need to do an inspection for the sewer line and for the electrical panel, and it's on and on. And we depend on their time,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
What about the 2 stories one that you have? That one is amazing.
Yeah, the one in Culver City. It's an amazing project. We attached a 2-story ADU to the main home. It was actually for the personal use of the family. So they were really heavily involved in wanting to pick the floors that they wanted and the cabinets and creating this vision.
The door is beautiful. The door towards the garden is amazing.
Yeah, we got these mahogany French doors. They look amazing. The finishes that we picked were incredible. One of the things that I acquired as a skill over the years is how to extract a true vision from a client's head and really put it into reality. So very detailed questions is what helps people kind of understand. A lot of times people have this vision in their head and it's so hard to relay it when you're just talking to somebody through one conversation. And the worst thing that we can do in our business is make assumptions. So to assume, "Oh, well, they got this color flooring, so obviously they want this color paint." That's what I would do. You know what I'm saying? And I think what we really pride ourselves on here at CCS is making sure that we, first of all, listen deeply to what the client's looking for and to make suggestions, but to not override the project. To not tell people, don't do this, but to say, here's a suggestion. Have you thought of looking at something this way? And I feel like a lot of times people feel good when they're a part of the process because at the end of the day, the unit is for them,
Right.
right? And the vision that they have, it's not my job to intrude on that vision. It's my job to facilitate that vision and make it a reality. And so this Culver City project is a beautiful example of that. They have some amazing taste, the clients, in finishes, in design, and I really loved along the way learning not only what they wanted, but who they are as people. And through that learning of who they are as people, we spent many times in their kitchen, in their living room, just getting to know each other. And the more I understood the clients, the more I could make good decisions on their behalf and to really represent them. And I think that's very important because we're not just putting two pieces of brick together. We're designing something for human beings who all have separate walks of life, you know?
It's beautiful. That unit is amazing. We're gonna make a video about this unit so that you can guys have a look. But it's such a nice ADU. It's a 2-story attached ADU to the house. So tell us about a little bit about the process. How did it take for the plans to be approved? The construction itself.
So we dealt with a very strict city, which is Culver City. Okay. The jurisdiction that your home is in plays a large part in how long your planning process is going to take because some cities, like the city of LA, for example, have so many different projects that are submitted to them at one time. They're not nitpicking every little thing. I don't think they have the time to do that. So they're a little bit more lenient and relaxed, and so are the inspectors. When you're dealing with a smaller jurisdiction like Culver City, obviously, it's a very high-end area, and they're not dealing with as many projects because there's just not as many homes in that report to this building department. So we got a little bit delayed in the planning process, only because the city itself had a lot of different loopholes that we had to jump through to be able to just get the plans approved. Even with that, it took us only 6 months. And this was 6 months of me being in the city twice a week, making sure that things were going to plan. We started construction in mid-November, and we are currently mid-April. So you're talking about December, January, February, March, April, 5 months. And we built an amazing, beautiful 2-story unit attached to the main home, which I can tell you is not an easy thing to do.
So let's talk a little bit about these companies that are more affordable, which in reality they're not. Once you approach them, do you realize their price doesn't include many of the things. We went to the AOA convention and we found one of these companies. And when we approached them to ask them if we could work together, they said, well, our price is up the way before drywall. So drywall is not included. Finished materials like floor, utilities, kitchen cabinets, bathroom, none of that is included. Sewer line, panel, electrical panel. So many people think, oh, they quote me $80,000. But in reality, once they start the job, they're going to tell you, hey, we need another $10,000 for the drywall. We're going to need another $10,000 for utilities. We're going to need another $10,000 for floor and paint, and another $10,000 for stucco and sewer line, another $15,000. So they're going to end up paying 130 plus just for a garage conversion.
So I do speak to a lot of people who, when I present the price, they're kind of hit with a little bit of a sticker shock, you know? And I think the reality is they say, well, you're the 5th contractor we spoke to, you're the 6th contractor we spoke to, and you are the only person who's given me this price. Everybody else says I can do it for under $100,000. And I find it funny because if you are able to give a set price for a unit prior to doing any plans and understanding what the city is going to ask of you to do, that number is completely made up in their head. And I can tell you that with 100% certainty. I'll put my reputation on it. Okay. No two projects are ever the same, and no two permitting processes ever go the same. City may ask you to reinforce foundation. City may ask you to add shear walls in places the contractor had no idea didn't have shear walls. They may ask you to run the sewer line further than you thought it was going to go. They may ask you for several things during the process. And how can I give you a set price down to the dollar without knowing what I need to get myself into? So that's why we do everything in 2 stages. We'll do the permitting first and figure out exactly what the city is going to require of us to build this unit. What is the engineering that's going to have to go behind it? And how many things do I need to alter with an existing unit if there is one? After we get that finalized with the city, I can now look at these plans and tell you down to the dollar what it's going to cost you to build it, because I know exactly these plans are our blueprints. They are our roadmap to how we're going to get from here to where you want to go. And most people will see that once those plans are in front of a contractor, the prices are going to vary 3 to 5% between everybody's prices. But when you're asking for a price at the very first meeting without any plans in front of you, you can't be shocked that somebody is just they're going to give you so many wide ranges of things. The truth is nobody knows what it's going to cost to build until they get the approval from the city.
So an ADU cannot cost you under 100,000 if it's a garage conversion. And if you go 2 stories or 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, it's gonna go between 300 all the way to 400,000. And this is a truth that people really need to know.
You know, one of the things I love to do when I have a client that I really want to build for, because I've fallen in love with their vision for what they want to create. And for me, I need to be passionate about what I want to build. And I've had several clients that I've been very passionate about what I want to build. And we create proposals that are so detailed. I mean, there is no ambiguity in these proposals, down to how many door jambs I'm going to install, how many vanities I'm going to install. Everything is on this proposal. And it is so detailed that there's no way that a client can look at it and say, it's a little unclear whether I'm going to be doing this or you're going to be doing that. Everything that's required from me digging the first day to giving you the keys is on these proposals. So when I have a client who says, well, I want to take this price and I want to go price it out with a few other contractors, I'm always okay with it. And I always say, that's no problem. But please make sure when you're reading their scope of work that it is as detailed and inclusive as mine. Because I can give you a price that's much lower as well. I'll just take out X, Y, Z, all of these things the same way that they're going to give you that proposal. And many times when I look at other people's proposals, when they present it to me and say, look, they gave me it $30,000 cheaper. And I say, yeah, but look at this. It says that they're not going to do any inspections. Do you know how to deal with an inspector? They haven't put anything in here about running your sewer lines. They haven't. These are all change orders that they're going to be looking for later once they've collected enough money from you that they know that you're not going to run away.
There is something really important that clients need to understand. They're working with a company that is 25 plus years in the business. So once the inspectors realize you hired this company, they are like, okay, this is a legitimate company. I know what they're doing. I know they're good. I know they don't cut any corners. So it is always better to hire a company that is fully licensed like us and let us do the talking and take over with the city and the inspectors.
That's one of the things that sadly we see a lot. I always tell clients, if you think you're saving the $30,000, you're saving it today, but you're going to eventually pay it. Right. And whether you pay it and you're prepared for it, or you're going to pay it without being prepared for it, and maybe you get stuck on your job because you didn't budget for this money, is completely up to you. Now, I'm not asking you to just blindly trust me, but we are a company that's reputable, has tons of 5-star reviews on Yelp. We have a laundry list of clients who've been very happy with our work. And at the end of the day, we know how much it's going to cost to create something. Okay. Now, again, I'm not saying I know everything in the world. I don't. But I have a very good idea after I have a full set of plans in front of me what something's going to cost. And if in my mind it doesn't make sense for me to build something at a certain price, I can assure you that whoever you hire is going to end up needing that much money anyway. Because we are not price gouging anybody or taking advantage of anybody. We build at a very fair price.
Many of our clients are already dealing with violations. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so building code compliance, I think, is one of the coolest things that we do at CCS. because we help a lot of people who feel stuck. They don't know who else to turn to. One of the greatest things about what we do for people on the violation side is the way that we handle inspectors and the city. It really helps to have somebody experienced on your side, because if you allow an inspector into your home without knowing what the process should look like, they are going to make you tear everything apart if they feel like it.
The other day, two investors came into the office. You weren't there, and they wanted to talk about actually investing into some ADUs to build them in the parking lot of their buildings. They have several buildings around LA. I think around 10 buildings we were checking or something like that. And it's very important for investors to know that the best ROI that you're going to have right now, it's when you build from a single family home, you convert it into a multifamily home with 2 more ADUs. So now you have 3 doors and you can have cash flow for the 3 doors. But the best ROI that you're going to get is with these single family homes, turning them into multifamily homes. And investors need to know about that. There is no house flip that is going to get the ROI that you get from building a single family home into a multi-unit. Now you have 3 doors, you have 3 different cash flows. So now because you have the land, the cap rate can be so high because you're just adding a square footage to the land that you already own.
You know, in real estate, when you're purchasing a new property for investment purposes, here in Los Angeles, 80% of what you're paying for is the land itself. So if you're buying a 1,200 square foot home in let's say Culver City, for example, that 1,200 square foot home could cost you $2 million. Now, the home itself is not worth $2 million. The land is probably worth 1.5, and the structure on it is worth 500,000, including all the finishes and everything inside. So when you already own this piece of land, the ROI on creating more structures, which are much cheaper than acquiring more land, is crazy. A cap rate is how much return on your money are you going to get yearly through rents based on the purchase price, right? So if I took all the rents that I get in 1 month from this unit and took it over 12 months, put it throughout a year, and I divided it by my purchase price, a good cap rate right now in Los Angeles is 5%. 5% return on your money for getting yourself into a $2 million loan. Now, for an ADU, if I were to build you a 1,200 square foot ADU on the back of a property that you already own or are looking to purchase, and it costs you $350,000 to $400,000 to build this ADU, you're going to collect the same rents as you are on this 1,200 square foot home that you were going to purchase for $2 million, but you only spent $400,000. So now your cap rates shoot anywhere from 15 to 20%. And instead of paying off this home, let's say if you're making 5% returns, you pay off this home in 20 years with the rents, you're paying it off in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So after 4 or 5 years, you are completely just making profit from this unit.
Yeah, and that is exactly what investors don't really know about building ADUs. What can you tell us about AB 2533?
So AB 2533 is actually a very exciting thing that just came into effect on January 1st of this year. What AB 2533 allows is that any unpermitted ADU that was constructed before January 1st of 2020, so you're talking about an ADU maybe that somebody converted their garage back in 2017, or they just built a freestanding unit back in 2018, or anytime before 2020, you are now allowed through the law that they've passed, AB 2533, to keep the existing footprint of this ADU. Meaning, as long as it does not violate any health and safety standards, you can keep the setback even if it's touching the back wall, because typically you need 4-foot setbacks for any ADU. If you've already constructed this unit and you can prove that it was built before 2020, and that back wall of the unit is touching the rear setback of your property, they cannot deny you the permit due to this, which is an amazing thing for us. You're allowed to keep the existing footprint. And the other thing it exempts you from, is Jesus. And what's really cool is the other thing that it exempts you from are some of the city fees, like impact fees, which can range from $12,000 to $15,000 for having a unit of a specific size. Those are exempt if your unit is already built before 2020 under these laws. The other thing that's really cool about AB 2533 is we can now legalize this space using as I said, the same footprint, but also you can get a third-party inspection. That's before you even apply for the plans from a licensed contractor, and you're able to submit that inspection to the city as a way of even proving further that you don't need to make any alterations to the existing unit. I love this new law. We deal with a ton of clients who maybe bought a home or inherited a home that already had this unpermitted freestanding structure on it, and they just don't know what to do. And we didn't have any path for them aside from abiding by today's codes and cutting down a portion of this ADU until January 1st of this year.
Right.
And I think it's amazing because it's going to create more housing for people, more legal housing that can be safe and code efficient. And obviously, you still have to get the unit itself up to code, but now the city can no longer tell you, hey, you're not within the setbacks, you need to tear it down.
Right. Let's talk about what a client should expect when building an ADU. Most of the garage conversions that I go, they're like, let's keep this wall. I just want to keep this door. And they need to understand that we need to start with the footings again, and it's all the full set of plans. And maybe we have to reinforce the walls and the roof. And let's talk about that.
I think what a lot of people need to prepare themselves for is the engineering that goes behind creating something that's actually safe to live in. So, for example, a garage, it does not have any footings underneath the existing concrete slab most of the time. And these footings are very imperative because what they do is they keep the structure safe. What a footing does is it pins your foundation, your slab, into the ground underneath it to make sure that nothing on top of it, it can support the load that's going to be put on top of it. Your kitchen cabinets, your bathrooms, everything else that's going to be put on top. When you have a garage, the only thing that should be in there is 2 cars, right? The other thing that people don't understand is the engineering that goes behind their walls, right? So it's not enough to just slap up drywall and say that now I have a rental unit. It's not safe to live in. One thing I always try to tell people is, should there ever be an earthquake, you have something called shear walls. These shear walls are designed to keep you safe during an earthquake. What they do is they give your property give and an ability to sway so that it doesn't just topple down on itself. If you have somebody sleeping under a roof that doesn't have the proper engineering, the proper foundation, the proper shear walls, you're putting them at risk during a natural disaster or whatever, which could cause something that, I hate to say it, something horrible that you really don't want to have the liability for or even just on your conscience. And so one thing I always try to prepare people for is it's not as simple as just slapping up drywall. You really need to make sure that the space you're creating is engineered correctly. Most importantly, is safe for your liability, for you to be able to sleep good at night, knowing that there's somebody inside a safe unit that's code compliant. In terms of building ADUs, a lot of the unexpected things that can happen during that is just people not understanding how much actually goes into a home. You walk into an already finished home, you're seeing everything already done. You're seeing the drywall, you're seeing the paint, you're seeing the stucco. Everything's already put together so nicely for you. A lot of times when we're going through the building process, people don't understand, oh, well, I actually need to pick out some floors. I need to pick the shower tiles, shower glass doors. What kind of ledge do I want here? So homeowners are actually a lot more involved than they realize they need to be in the building process. But that's an amazing thing because you get to completely customize everything that you want. And you really need somebody who's experienced in all facets of the job to be able to really coordinate and put this all together for you. And that's what we do. So our role as project manager is to bring that experience to you. And so every little nook and cranny in the job that is required, like your door jambs, trims, everything, we make sure that it's done efficiently and the right way. A lot of homeowners think, okay, well, I'll just hire somebody to come in and one plumber to do my plumbing and an electrician to do my electric. I'll save some money that way, everything's. But if these people are not working as one unit, as one coordinated unit, with somebody managing this job and making sure everything is done properly and efficiently, that's when you get delays. That's when inspections fail. That's when things don't go the right way or things are not built the way that you were originally planning. And that's where our experience really comes in. So you want to work with a company who does a lot of projects, has been through all types of scenarios because so many unexpected things can come up during construction. and you really want to have somebody on your side who knows how to handle and manage these jobs. And that's what we specialize in.
Well, Eddie, it was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure talking to you too, Pablo.
Same.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you so much. Please give us a call if you're looking to do anything construction related or violation related. We're here to help.